Hey y'all, it's Michael and it's VEDA day 26. Today I'm here to do a book review on a book I didn't get a chance to talk about in my wrap-ups recently because it fell in the middle spectrum. And today I'm here to talk about Console Wars, Sega, Nintendo, and the Battle that Defined a Generation by Blake J. Harris. I listened to it on audiobook. It's narrated by Fred Berman. I wanted to let you guys know something that is really important in my life, and that's video games, because I love video games. I've been a video gamer all my life basically. Yeah, I started with the Super Nintendo, then I had a Nintendo 64, and then a PlayStation 2, and then a PlayStation 3, and then the Xbox 360. I haven't bought a current generation console yet because I'm still waiting for that PS 4K. They're probably gonna announce it during E3. I feel it. I love it because it was a combination of what I love, which was stories and gameplay. I think when those two combine, they make an incredible game. Gameplay overall though, like if your gameplay is incredible, you don't necessarily have to have a story. Gameplay first, always and forever. Every single day, I'm surrounded by video games every single day. I handle video games at where I work. I find that I don't play as much as I used to, and that's probably because of life. Now I find myself reading more than anything. My favorite is probably puzzle games. I love puzzle games. Like, I love puzzle games. Those are my action adventure, first person shooters I can really get into, JRPGs, Western RPGs, casual games. I love indie games. So let's just get into it. Now this book is non-fiction. This book talks about one of the most important console wars, because there's always console wars, but this one was this was so important. This shaped everything going forward video game history wise. Before going into this book, I know my history of video games. I wanted to know more essentially. Now at the end, did I get that? So this book basically takes place in the eyes of Sega. We follow mainly Sega and the people that started. Now I'm not gonna go into the details of that because that would be really long. To me, it felt like it portrayed Sega as like the underdog and Nintendo as almost like a behemoth to knock down. The things that I really enjoyed about this book was not even about Sega, even though that's like the main focus, is more about Nintendo. I think my main issue with this book was how the structure, and I cannot get over that. First off, this book is told in a semi-reminiscent style. I understand when nonfiction are told like in past tense. I get that because a lot of the history, like nonfiction, is basically happening in the past. So you know what I'm saying? It didn't work for me because it felt almost contrived. The issue that I had with this book was dialogue, and that was because these people spoke as if how non-gamers think of how gamers talk, if that makes any sense, because it used like these lame puns and these like metaphors. I'm not gonna lie, it felt as though as a gamer I was almost knocked down, like a 12-year-old, like maybe a 15-year-old, 12-year-old gamer was narrating it. I have a true belief games are really intellectual. There are video games that are really thought out. I remember, oh my gosh, I'm so into this right now. I remember the first time I played BioShock, and I was blown away by that game because I've never played a first-person shooter before, but I've heard from people that said to play this, I was like, sure, why not? When I finished that game, I was like mind blown. It was one of the most thought out video games I've ever experienced. Not because, first off, the gameplay was fantastic. The way the system works, the shooting mechanics, it was so good. And there's some really cool gameplay going on. Number two was like the grappling hook. So good. So good. When you look at it story-wise and structure-wise, like as if you're looking at it as a novel, it is done to perfection because when the wool is pulled over your eyes. Whoa. What? This is one of my gripes. Almost meandering and pandered down to a lower level than what I consider gaming as. And I had a few issues with that. That mainly attributes to the dialogue. The gaming people that I talk to, we can have a smart, intellectual conversation. The narrator pronounced words really weird. Mario, not Mario. Sometimes I have a few Okay, never mind. I also didn't like how Nintendo was portrayed in this, and I feel as though they're backing up the reason why they do what they do wasn't justified, because Nintendo, in my opinion, is one of the most fascinating companies right now. Like, that goes like with Apple. Apple, oh my gosh, Apple and like Nintendo are fascinating. When you look at them as a company, they are really interesting to look at. How they push their markets and what they look at when they're looking at their audiences. Since this book is mainly from Sega's point of view, I understand why they do it. But basically, if your game didn't match Nintendo's standard, you weren't going to get developed. I wish that the book talked more about that, because then it would have justified why they did it. I did learn things from this novel that I did not know about as a gamer myself. I also enjoyed different culture perspective on the video game industry during this time between Sega of America and Sega of Japan. This book really shows the two main cultural differences. Even though they're the same company, they were two separate entities. It also showed the huge differences between American companies, their structural hierarchies, and Japan business mentality. This is just a generalization, but it is changing a little bit more in Japan, but it's still very rigid. In America, companies tend to be, yes, you have a hierarchy, but let's say a good leader will ask, let's brainstorm this, let's bring out ideas, you have a really good idea, let's take this into account, blah, 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 blah. That type of thing. In Japan, it's more respectful to basically, like, to be in your place. You tend to be more in a straight line. Like, the people up above you have more power than you, essentially. Now, would I recommend this book? I would be iffy about it. If you're a novice about video games and you kind of want to know more, I rated it 3, but I would give it more of a 2.5. If you have any recommendations on great video game books, I would love to know. Yeah, if you read this book, let me know what you think about it, or if you're interested, let me know. Until then, I'll see you guys till later. Bye!